Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fearlessly Authentic. I'm your host, Jody Harrison Bauer, and this is the show that educates, empowers, entertains, and inspires you to live your most fearlessly authentic life. I believe it's never too late to embrace who you truly are, break through limitations, and live bold and strong. This show is your place for real conversations about health, fitness, mindset, and the courage it takes to live unapologetically. Each week, we bring you inspiring guests and actionable advice to help you take charge of your life. So let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fearlessly Authentic. I'm your host, Jody Harrison Bauer, and I am so excited to be here today. I'm always excited to be here on the show. Today is a live show, and I don't know if a lot of you know this already, but this is a live show unless I record otherwise. And so sometimes I record beforehand and it goes out there. But today we are recording live, and I really like the live component of this because I love the adrenaline rush. And I never was an adrenaline junkie or person like that until I started competing in fitness shows. But I just wanted to tell you that I'm really here, really happy to be here today and recording this live. I have a lot on my mind. For those of you who are new to the show, welcome to Fearlessly Authentic. This is the show where we educate you, empower you with that information, and inspire you to live your most fearlessly authentic life. Because in my opinion, if you're not doing that, then what the heck are we doing here? And that's part of what I'm going to be talking about today in this episode. As I mentioned, I have a lot on my mind. I usually have a lot to say. I don't always say what's on my mind, but when I come on to record here with all of you, I always want to share with you what's going on in my life. And so you can learn. I hope that this show saves you a lot of time where I didn't necessarily have it. I will be 64 at the end of this month, December 27th. Happy birthday to my Sagittarius friends. Happy birthday to the Capricorn birthdays coming up real soon. There is a difference between a December and a January Capricorn, but that's for another podcast. The thing that is really coming up for me is, as I've shared with you in the past on this show, the retreat that I went on called Presence at the island called Ariel in the British Virgin Islands, BVI. I've had a few guests on this show, Kelly Brock, Becky Aste, who have been on the show and we've shared our journey on being on the show. And Kelly was a very important person, still is a very important person in my life, and really encouraged me to attend the retreat. She said it would be life transforming, and I didn't believe her because in some ways I'm a bit of a cynic. I've been coached by a few people over the last 20 years, more than a few, and none of them have delivered what I needed because I'm a no bullshit girl. Kelly's been the mainstay in my life. Shout out to Kelly Brock. She's just a wonderful human being. So I trusted her and I went, and my life has forever changed as a result. Now, I want to explain something to you. A huge part of this episode today is about choosing yourself and redefining aging. For me, it's redefining aging at 64. And you know that I've always been very open about how old I am because it doesn't pay to lie about how old I am. I'm very proud of being healthy and vibrant and alive at this age, and to be able to share my life experiences, whether it's about fitness and nutrition or mindset or goal setting or relationships. Those are all very important parts of our life in order to be present and notice the things in our lives that are working for us and the things that are not working for us. And part of going to this retreat called Presence was to become very present. So you might think to yourself, well, I'm pretty present. I know what's going on. Like, not much gets past me. And I know the women who listen to the show are on top of things. You ladies, you know what's going on. But sometimes we don't. Sometimes we see things for what they are, but we choose to ignore them. Those are what we call today the red flags and the green flags. When we trust our gut, it's not always easy. but we trust our gut when we lean into being present and aware of that red flag. Does that make sense? Trusting your instincts is so important. I've done many episodes about trusting your instincts. And I was talking to a friend this morning, and I was telling her about when I got divorced in 2002. Remember, it was like a couple of years later, I was getting out of the shower and I said to myself, Jody, it was probably after a relationship or something. I don't really know. And I just said to myself, Jody, you have to start trusting your gut, because part of trusting your gut is allowing you to surrender. And what I didn't realize, that what I wasn't doing was, it wasn't practicing what I was preaching. I wasn't following my gut. I was allowing fear to stop me from following your gut. Is scary and it's not easy. So we make all of these other excuses. We deflect. We might blame others. We might blame ourselves. But following our gut is our GPS, but it's also scary. And it always comes back to why I named the show Fearlessly Authentic, because that has always been my goal. And so when I was talking to my friend about going on this retreat this morning, I was telling her all about it. We had to become very present. And by becoming present, you need to surrender those fears. You need to lean in to surrendering. What does that mean? I didn't even know what it meant. I knew following your gut, and I tried to do it as much as I possibly could, but surrendering, what did that really feel like? And surrendering really, for me, came up as, I have to be truthful to myself. I see the truth in front of me. I have to surrender to the truth of my life. And the truth of my life is that I'm not happy. What am I not happy about? Not happy in my relationship, not happy in my marriage. And a couple of years ago, I started writing a book, and I have rewritten it many times, because I realized as I was writing it that I wasn't being truthful to myself. I wasn't being fearlessly authentic. I was, quote unquote, hiding behind fitness and nutrition and wellness. And it really wasn't what I wanted to talk about anymore, because fitness, nutrition, wellness, it is the foundation of who I am. It's the same as getting up and brushing my teeth and washing my face every day. It is a part of me. And although that is a part of me, I didn't want it to define me. And when I closed my studio in 2022, that was a real eye-opening experience for me to say, okay, what do I want the rest of my life to be? For the last 20, the last 30 something years, my life has been all about getting to the gym, training clients, teaching classes, helping others set their goals. But I don't want to be just about that right now. So on this retreat, the thing that kept coming up for me was my relationship, my marriage. And I journaled more than I ever have before. Journaling for me was hard because, as many of you who do journal know, that things come up, and sometimes we don't want to see our reflection on the pages, right? We don't want to get really real with our feelings. We don't want to believe that maybe we're not happy and we don't know what the next step or stage in our life is going to be. So as I'm sitting here, I'm looking at my Saratoga water, and it says still. I like still water. I don't like bubbles. And that's what presence made me do. It made me get really still. It made me get really present. It made me surrender my feelings. And I cried a lot. We all cried a lot. We spent almost 2.5 days in silence. And I was really looking forward to it. We had to surrender our devices. We had to surrender. I'm just realizing that as I'm saying this right now. We had to surrender our devices. We had to surrender our voices. We had to learn how to communicate without saying anything. So there was a lot of smiles and hugging, but we were all very introspective. And at the end, we all shared how we felt. And I heard from a lot of the women there that, like, wow, we didn't know all that was going on with you. You were kind of shy about things. And for those who know me, I know you're going to think that I'm not shy. I wouldn't consider myself a shy person, but I don't always open up my feelings if I don't know how to express them. Can you relate to that? Some people talk and that's their way of figuring out what it is that's on their mind. For me, and in particularly that situation, it was a small, intimate group of like 11 women. I felt very comfortable sharing, but I couldn't really express how I was feeling. I know that seems confusing. I go back, if you've been a regular listener, I go back to when I started competing in 2007. And my coach said to me, stop looking at all the other girls, Harrison, just be you. And we're still in touch after all of these years. And I remember thinking, I don't know who I am. Like I had just gotten divorced. I was dating, I was figuring things out, being a single mom. And then after she kept like beating that into my head, this was all before social media and mindset and all that other stuff. I remember then like competing and walking on stage. And finally, it was like one of the times, I'm sure it was the time that I won my first world show. I was walking in my own shoes. I wasn't trying to be this girl or that girl. I was being me and I won because I was being fearlessly authentic. And I'll never forget her saying that to me. And I've shared that on the show many, many times. So it was in that moment on the island when we all started sharing like what came up for us in the 2.5 days. What were we feeling? And what came up for me is that I, I was being really honest with myself. I wasn't happy. And I talked for a long time and I kept apologizing. And of course, they said to me, don't apologize because I was taking up a lot of talking time. But I realized that I hadn't expressed a lot. So I wanted to share that revelation with you because it is important to be still. It is important to be present. It is important to trust your gut. And those are all very uncomfortable things. To be still, it's meditation, right? Whatever your form of meditation is. But to be still, to be very, very present, to write down your thoughts and see your feelings. When I go back and I look at the journal, I can't believe some of the things that came up for me. But I will be forever grateful to Kelly for making me, in quotes, making me go on the retreat because it did change my life. And I didn't know how transformative it would be. And I realized that I'll be 64 at the end of this month, that when I left the island, I remember thinking to myself, I've got to start choosing myself first. I've got to start choosing myself in ways that I never imagined. Now, I'm not going to say I've never chosen myself because I knew how to survive, but things were different when I got divorced 22 years ago. I had little children. My daughters are 31 and 35 now. They were 8.5 and 13. And I chose my own happiness and peace because I wanted my daughters to grow up to see what a loving relationship would be, and that what we as their parents were showing them was not what I wanted them modeling after. I wanted them to see their dad really happy, and I wanted them to see me really happy. And I also wanted them to see me as who I was, because the Jody mommy that showed up in my marriage was not the Jody mommy who I was. It was who I had to be in that marriage until it started to suffocate me and stifle me. And then I began to resent him. And you know how that all goes down. So now at almost 64, I made the decision to choose myself in ways I never imagined, redefining what it means to age again. Because I thought in my 40s, over 20 years ago, you guys, 40 was like regarded as old, which is why so many people told me at 45, 46, you're too old to compete. You can't compete in fitness shows. What are you going to do? Get up in stripper heels and bikinis? Now you see these moms doing it at, you know, 50, 60. And there's a woman I follow who's in her 70s who's doing it. Things have changed. We're living longer. And it's crazy to think that almost 20 years ago, how much things have changed. And I'm so happy that they have. 50's young, 40's young. And when I opened up Jody Fit at 50, people told me I was too old, that nobody would ever come and train with me. After being on the island and leaving, I felt like I was having a spiritual awakening, but I didn't realize that at the time. I didn't acknowledge that I was surrendering to something that I knew I needed to surrender to in order to move on or figure out with my husband how we can be happy together, how we can make this marriage work. But as another mentor has shared with me, you need two hands to clap. If you've just got the one hand, it doesn't work. There's no sound. And I soon realized that what I was facing was a person that wasn't clapping with me, didn't want to learn how to clap with me. And I was trying to clap for both of us. One person can't do all the clapping. There's got to be the other person. So when I think about redefining what it means to age at almost 64, it's different than the conversations I had at 42, 44, because it's not about fighting age. It's about embracing it powerfully and fearlessly. And I wasn't going to let my age, once again, to get in the way. I wasn't going to let fear get in my way of finding and being happy and peaceful, at peace. I knew that if my partner, my husband, didn't want to rise above all the bullshit that we were talking about, that we kind of shoved around as the reason things weren't what we wanted them to be, and just acknowledge the fact that one hand was trying to clap and the other one was doing something else, and that we couldn't come together and clap, that we were going to be doomed. And so when I went back home, I just had a different outlook on things. And I started to ground myself even more so than ever, kind of isolated myself a little bit because I really needed to think. I started thinking about what was next for me. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I didn't want to only be talking about fitness, which is why I made this podcast not about fitness. I made it a lifestyle podcast because it is about people who are making a difference to help other people live a fearlessly authentic life, whether it's through their products or their services, and whether it's about aging or fitness or wellness or sleep or menopause, postmenopause. These are all the things, relationships that fall under life. And life isn't always easy. And sometimes we need other people to help us navigate through it. Sometimes we need to go on a retreat. So I'm going to tell you this, that I am working on a retreat for all of you to come to. Hopefully it will be in the spring. Working hard on it right now. And I can't wait to share it with you. I also wanted to let you know that if you want to work with me one-on-one, I am opening up spaces for just 3 clients to work with me one-on-one and work on things so you can have the life that you deserve. So you can choose yourself and find happiness within yourself, whether it's fitness, nutrition, relationships, goal setting, mindset. This is all life. And at the foundation of it all, we should feel well, because without our wellness, without feeling good, we can't really accomplish very much. Because if we don't have our health, it's hard to accomplish a lot of things. So as I mentioned, my journey of self-discovery started at 42 when I got divorced. And choosing myself felt selfish at the beginning. And I felt guilty about it. If you're going through something right now, whether it's a relationship at work or it's a personal relationship, and it's toxic or it's not working or the communication's not there, and you feel like you're trying to clap, but the other person's not helping you make the noise, it's not helping you clap, I urge you to write down your thoughts. I urge you to reach out to somebody who can help you. I can help you. I've been through this. When I think about it again, I'll be 64 at the end of this month. I've lived a lot of life. I have a lot of life experience and I have a lot of expertise in what I talk about on the show. And I know how helpful and how much I've had the honor to help other women change their lives for the better. So feel free to reach out to me, DM me, or go to my website, jodyharrisonbauer.com, and I can help you. A lot of our confidence starts with the way we feel in our body. So if we don't feel good inside our body, mind, and body, then we can't present ourselves out to the world in the way that we want to, because we all want to present ourselves to the world in a confident, vibrant way. But when we're not feeling it inside, it affects our mindset. It affects the way we show up in relationships. It affects the way we show up at work. It affects the way we live our life. But if we know that we are taking the steps to better our life, then we will feel more confident in the way we present ourselves to the world. It's not about beauty. It's not about necessarily anything on the outside. It's an inside job. And I know you've heard this so many times, but it truly is an inside job. The way we present ourselves to the outside is the way we feel inside. And if we know that we're doing the work on the inside, mind, body, spiritually, and then we start from the inside, working up and on the outside with the right coach, with the right person holding you accountable for the goals that you set, then it's all beautiful from there on. So we're going to take a break right now. Stay with me. I'm clapping. Stay with me. I'll see you back in a few minutes.
You are listening to Fearlessly Authentic with Jody Harrison Bauer. We'd love to hear from you with any questions or comments you may have. Send an email to info@jodyharrisonbauer.com. That's info@jodyharrisonbauer.com. Now, back to Fearlessly Authentic.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Let's get into choosing yourself. What does it mean? What does it mean to choose yourself? We've all heard that choosing yourself isn't selfish. Self-love is important. It's not about being selfish. It's about survival, and it's about presenting yourself as the best version of you. It means prioritizing your needs, dreams, and well-being without guilt. And as I mentioned before the break, I did feel guilty choosing myself. I did feel guilty divorcing 22 years ago. People around me made me feel guilty, and I felt guilty. Even my parents made me feel guilty. My kids made me feel guilty. My oldest one mostly. And I realized that as my journey began, that it was the best thing for me and for my children. You see, when children see an unhappy mom, it affects them deeply. I didn't know that at the time. It's what I've read about happy families, happy moms, that the children need to see their mom happy. I'm sure they need to see their dad happy too, but the mom is much more the nurturer in most cases than the dad, but not always. So my mindset shifted after the retreat, and I didn't really know where it was going to take me. I really didn't know until, and I've shared a little bit about this, just a little bit. I'm sure that you're getting the gist of it. When I shared with you that I realized when I was on the retreat that it was my marriage that needed repair, and that I knew it, but now I felt it and I was facing it. And I have tried over the last, we've been together for 10 years, married for 5.5, going to therapy, and he didn't like it and it never continued. So I thought to myself, what's next? I need to work on this. I don't want to get divorced. I want to make this relationship work. What is it that I can do? But again, it went back to what was it that I can do versus what he and I can do. And again, I was clapping with one hand. There was no clap, clap. There was just one hand that didn't find another hand to clap. So I took some time to myself, got away for about a week, felt and saw some things that were disturbing to me, came back to Connecticut. And with an hour of being back home, I realized that I didn't want to be there anymore. That was scary for me. I realized that I have to, I have to save myself. I have to prioritize my mental well-being. I felt that everything that I learned about myself on the island was coming up for me because I had gotten so present with what my needs were, what my wants were. My needs and wants were simple. I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to give love. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to laugh. And I wanted to share my golden years with somebody. But I didn't get the feeling that he wanted to work on these things as much as I did. And when I came back to Connecticut, there were some disturbing things that came up, and I just didn't want to be there anymore. I felt that we needed time apart to figure out what our priorities were. What did he want? What did I want? Now, of course, he didn't want me to leave. He didn't really support me leaving. And that's something I want you all to think about, that if you are in a relationship where you need some space to get clear on what it is that you need, again, in a personal relationship or in a professional relationship, and you need some time to step out of it and just think, which is why we need vacations from work and why we need vacations with our significant others or by ourselves. So we have that time, that peace, that presence, that quiet time to reflect. If that significant other doesn't support your time, then it's probably not the right person for you, because a loving partner will support what you need to be the best version of you. So you could bring that best version of you into the relationship. Why wouldn't we all want that? We do all want that. But insecurity, scarcity mindset can stop people from giving you that support. I grew up with a mom that had an abundant mindset and a dad who had a scarcity mindset. And I could go either way throughout my life. But when I had my abundance mindset, nothing could stop me. And I found that I was shrinking. I felt that my spirit, my vibration was getting lower and lower. And I felt that I was like slowly dying. And I just wouldn't allow myself to do that. So getting away by myself to figure things out, not to figure things out, I just got away to think. And you're probably thinking, well, Jody, you just went on the retreat in June. What did you need to figure out again? Well, you know what? We're always trying to figure things out. It's not just one time and it just snaps. Shit doesn't happen just one time. But you know what? If you follow that gut instinct, it might just be that one time that you need. I needed one more time to get away. I was encouraged to get away. And I did. And when I came back, it was very clear to me that this is not where I needed to be right now, that I needed space to think. He did not support it. And a lot of shit went down. And that's kind of what I'm going through right now. But I'm in a more peaceful place in my life. And I'm very, very clear. And I think that's what I really want you to be clear. It takes a lot to find that clarity. It takes presence. It takes surrendering. It takes courage. And it takes following your gut instincts, not allowing fear or what society says about what you're doing. Do I want to get divorced? No. Could that happen? Maybe. And what's stopping me from that? Am I thinking about what people are going to think? No, because I'm past that. And for a lot of older women my age, societal expectations versus personal choices becomes a dilemma, because we all deserve to be happy. But sometimes the older we get, the more we fear being alone. I know a lot of women my age fear being alone. If they've been married for a very long time, they fear, and they haven't worked, they fear the lack of money. And that lack of financial support will keep them in the relationship for all the wrong reasons. And I'm telling you right now, you are brave enough to leave. You are brave enough to figure it out. Stop letting fear get in the way, because you know you're not living your most fearlessly authentic life. You know that you're not happy. You know that you don't want to be in this relationship, whether it's work or personal. I'm giving you permission to leave and get the space that you need to figure things out. Because it's very hard to be in a situation and trying to get clarity. So I left on August 28th with no plans to return to Connecticut unless things changed drastically. I didn't care what anybody thought. This time I didn't care about what anybody thought. My situation was different. My kids are older. Obviously, I didn't have children with this man. And we were supposed to try to figure everything out. And we're still trying to figure it out. And hopefully we will. And hopefully you will too. But finding that time to get clarity is very important. You may need to go on a retreat. You may just need a weekend away by yourself. It all depends on you and how you can find the stillness to surrender your thoughts and allow the universe to guide you, to let your gut guide you and not be stopped by fear or other obstacles. I want to talk again about older women, women in their 60s, women over 55, who also think that, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I can't leave this relationship. This is all I've known for 30 or 35 or 40 years. How can I leave? It's changing now, but society used to think that women should shrink themselves. I mean, some of us do shrink with age because we haven't worked out and we haven't built that skeletal muscle, and we do shrink and we get osteoporosis. And you don't need to get osteoporosis if you're working out and you're eating the right foods. DM me, we'll talk more about that. As I said, this isn't a fitness podcast. This is a lifestyle podcast. And that's why I talk about all of these things. And a lot of women feel that they need to shrink and they need to be smaller as they age. But what I realized when I got in the car with my dog and drove from Connecticut to Florida, that I wasn't shrinking. I was leaving to figure things out, and I was stepping into a whole new chapter, a whole new book. And I didn't know what was going to be written, right? The song, The Rest Still Unwritten. I didn't know. And I was describing the journey to my friend this morning, that it was as if, and I might have shared this on the show before, but the biggest thing that I remember is being in the car, not being overwhelmed that I was going to drive, how many miles is it? 1,200 miles? 1,500 miles? That I was going to drive all that way by myself at 63. Like, who does that? But you all know I'm Jewish, right? And so we don't pray to Jesus. But I went to that Carrie Underwood song, Jesus Take the Wheel. And I felt like God, I'm going to use Jesus because of the song, but that God had gotten behind me in the car. Like, he sat down first. And then I got in and he just wrapped his arms around me, he or she. And then as I put my hands on the wheel, he and she put their hands over my hands and guided me, because the whole drive was a blur. And I know you're thinking, well, Jody, you can do it. You've got balls. You can do it. No, I was fucking scared to death. I came down here. I was like the tiniest, skinniest I had ever been. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. My daughter looked at me and she's like, Mommy, you're so skinny. Like, I'm not a skinny person. Nobody's ever called me skinny. So this is your reminder. If you're going through something right now, you're not shrinking. I don't want you to shrink because that's what society thinks. I don't want you to shrink because you've gotten older. I want you to be bigger and better than ever. We think that as we get older, the old thought used to be, people don't want to hear about us. People don't want to see us. But it's not like that anymore. You can leave if you need to leave. I'm not promoting you leave. I'm promoting right now. I'm encouraging, I'm suggesting that if you know deep down in your gut that you're not happy, you don't have to have a reason to leave. The reason can be, I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I need peace. That's all you need. There doesn't have to be a reason. The reason is you want peace. You want happiness. You want fulfillment. You are choosing you, and that's okay. And that's not selfish. That's self-love. When we follow our gut and we don't allow fear to get in the way or our ego to get in the way, then we choose ourselves. So if you're thinking, what are my friends going to think? What are my children going to think? What are my coworkers going to think? That's your ego talking. If you're thinking, where am I going to go? Where am I going to get the money? How am I going to survive this? How am I going to do this without my partner, my spouse? You will figure it out because you're strong. And I believe in you and I know you can do this. We know that fear is the biggest obstacle that gets in our way of living the life that we deserve. Fear is what gets in the way of us living fearlessly authentic. And we're ever evolving because it doesn't happen overnight. We have to have the self-awareness to understand what it is that we want. It's not escape. It's about saving yourself because you deserve it. You deserve to be happy. Life goes by really fast, you guys. And you're not too old to choose happiness and peace over sadness and chaos. Getting older is an inside job. Your age is just a number. It's the way we feel inside that projects on the outside. And I know when I look back now, I can reflect back and see what I wasn't noticing because we get so caught up in the chaos of life that we allow the chaos to stop us from thinking about what is actually in front of us. And when I chose to leave on that day, I felt like the universe said to me, it's time to leave. Take your dog and leave. Go now, Jody. And I heard that. You hear people say, oh, the universe told me to do this or God told me to do this. It was so crystal clear to me that I had to follow my gut. It was following my gut. It was not about allowing fear to get in my way. So I want you to think about this in your belief in yourself, your belief about aging, your belief in self-love, your belief in happiness, joy. When I was on the retreat and I was doing the equine therapy, she asked me, when was the last time I felt joy? And I started to cry. I didn't know. That's not good. That was also part of this spiritual awakening that I'm going through. There's so much more than I could speak about to help you get through whatever you're going through right now. I had so many notes to discuss with you, but I'm going to leave it at this. Your mental wellness is more important than anything. You deserve to be happy and you deserve peace. You deserve to be healthy, mind, body, and soul. You deserve to be the beautiful human being that you are in the way that you want to be, because we are all different. So I want you to love yourself as your most authentic self. And do not fear change. Do not fear what other people are going to say. Don't allow fear or ego to get in the way of you being happy, because that is the most important thing in your life. For you to be happy and well, mind, body, and soul, so you can live a fearlessly authentic life. I love you all. Thank you for listening. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast and share it with all of your friends. We are now a top 5% globally rated podcast, and I am so excited because it's all due to all of you for listening. And if you have any questions about anything I discussed today, you could either DM me at Jody Harrison Bauer or go to my website, jodyharrisonbauer.com. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, but I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok. So please reach out to me. I would love to help you. And as you can tell, I'm very honest about stuff that I'm going through. I'm here to help. Love you guys. Go live your most fearlessly authentic life. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.